Greetings and good morning. You are listening to Rootwork on KPFK 90.7 FM in Los Angeles, 98.7 FM Santa Barbara, a whole bunch of other places, and kpfk.org. And if you are tuning in, this is Rootwork on the Black Liberation Media platform on YouTube. My name is Thandisizwe Chimurenga, and I'm trying something new today. So for those of you all who have never witnessed the local edition of Rootwork, this is what we do. If you're used to Rootwork, you know it can be kind of rough sometimes visually if you're used to Rootwork on YouTube, but we're going to make it do what it do today. So, locally speaking, I want to remind you here at KPFK that we are in our fund drive, our summer fund drive. That's when we appeal to you to show us love, to let us know how much you appreciate this independent media institution that's been around for over 60 years. 818-985-KPFK, 818-985-5735 is the phone number to call us and give us your pledge to sustain this institution. If you're not near a phone, if you can't sneak on the phone, you're at work, you can go to kpfk.org and make a secure pledge over the internet. Want to get started real quick, get into our show today. It's been all about Chicago this week as the site of the 2024 Democratic National Convention. We'll have a report direct from the front lines to bring us up to speed on that. Statewide, if you or a loved one needs hospital care or chemotherapy, you might be surprised or shocked and horrified to find out why it could be dangerous to your health. And locally, the AfricaTown Coalition in historic Leimert Park has leveled charges of bad faith and aiding and abetting gentrification of the area against a Black business owner in the park. We'll have all of that coming up in just a moment, but first, these news headlines. What we doing? That's funny. I told y'all, yeah, I told my YouTube folks, you know how this happens. The mic was on. I talked to myself. I see you over there clowning the Black Liberation Media Hour ASMR, whatever. At any rate, again, this is Thandisizwe Chimurenga. You are listening to and watching Rootwork on both the Black Liberation Media platform and KPFK Pacifica in Los Angeles. Have to remind you, we are in Fund Drive at KPFK. Call 818-985-5735, 818-985 KPFK to make a donation to this institution, this independent media institution that's been around for over 60 years and give folks like me a chance at the mic. Or you can make a donation in protest to keep people like me off the mic. I don't really care. 818-985-5735, 818-985 KPFK, or go to the web and make a secure donation, kpfk.org. Now, my next guest is a longtime worker, struggler for the people, an attorney, human rights attorney. She is currently the executive director of BAJI, the Black Alliance for a Just Immigration. She is also my sister here at KPFK with her show Conversations on the Way, talking about Nana Gyamfi, who is currently in Chicago on the front lines as usual at the Democratic National Committee Convention. Nana Gyamfi, welcome to the show.
Greetings. Thank you so very much for having me.
So, what is happening? Why are you there in Chicago? And what has been happening? What have you seen, experienced?
So there's a lot happening. It's a little bit of a surreal situation, particularly for someone that is coming with the perspective, the politics that I am coming with, that Baji is coming with, Black Alliance for Just Immigration, trying to see what's going on with our folks, as Black folks, what's happening with our folks as Black immigrants, and then just the general social justice space. Gaza is definitely on folks' minds. And so there's been almost daily protests with respect to Gaza. Um, the protests are not necessarily near the convention center, except for the sit-ins that are happening now that I'll talk about in a moment. But generally, there's like a police presence and barricades and everything, vehicle checks, all kinds of stuff to keep people from being able to get too close to the convention center. But you also have folks that are talking about reparations. You have people that are talking about immigration. We came here to do the conversation with the outside comrades, meaning not necessarily the people that are inside rah, rah, rahing on that Harris Waltz ticket right now. But of course, those people are all around you. And from the folks that are, giving you a lift ride to the people who are serving food at the restaurants, all the way to people wearing suits who clearly are delegates, you can definitely feel the energy of rah rah sis boom bah when it comes to the Democratic Party
Sis
and the
Boomba.
Harris Waltz ticket right now.
I heard that one in a while. Sis Boomba. I noticed an op-ed by Michael Harriot in the Griot, who was taking the uncommitted movement to task for demanding not a ceasefire, but what looked like black solidarity with the call for a ceasefire against Kamala Harris. Can you? I understand that you're more interested in the work outside of the convention, but can you give us a little bit more in terms of the conversations going on? Maybe not while people are speaking, but as you're roaming the halls in the convention.
Absolutely. So it's a very interesting and complicated conversation, really. I think and I don't understand. Well, I won't say I don't understand. It's clear to me that has been an effort to keep a certain dialogue in the air around Black folks and the issue of the genocide in Gaza in order to allow for the Gaza conversation to be muffled. Let's put it that way. And
Mm-hmm.
so there is a fake divide, I'm going to call it that is really being fostered such that if you are a Black person, then you are supposed to understand that Kamala Harris is your ancestors' dreams and nothing should get between you and the dream. And I say that not trying to be dismissive, literally laying out like what we're hearing while we're here on the streets of Chicago and in these hotels, restaurants, etc. Then you have another, position that is if you care about human beings and you care about humanity, then you absolutely should be opposing Harris and Waltz because of what is happening in Gaza and the support really that Harris has had or has given as vice president in this issue. So those two energies are there. Those energies are actually not the loudest energies in the room. There really are people that understand that there's a both and are looking at the blocking of one side and how that might be able to get to the stage where there's actually an arms embargo. And that's, I think, the majority of what people are thinking. That shifted yesterday. When the uncommitted delegates, and these are people who are elected like all the other delegates there to represent their districts in this conversation on the convention, right? When the uncommitted delegates had made several requests to have a Palestinian American speaker, including offering up the names of several people, including a state representative from Georgia who was touted at the time by the Democratic Party as, the Palestinian representative, and doesn't it show we have a big tent? All their names were rejected, every single one, including the representative who is here present. And on the other hand, the parents, as we know, of one of the hostages were allowed to come on stage and allowed to speak. And so now it's become even more contentious in the sense that where you had a majority of people that kind of were trying to hold both and trying to find ways to hold both, it's become a lot more difficult because they have made it clear on the DNC side that it's not both, that they are not willing to put themselves out in any way to allow for Palestinian voices to be heard at this DNC. And they have allowed Israeli voices to be heard. And so now we got an issue. And that, Michael Harriot, he writes fabulous stuff that I generally love. But I think that I try to imagine where, the South Africa, and don't have to imagine, we lived that way with apartheid, and the position that we took, those of us who cared about apartheid, was one that understood the linkages. I can imagine if what was happening in Gaza is happening in Ghana, and I can imagine if what was happening in Gaza was happening in, cities or areas of Black folks in this country. And I just don't feel like people would be saying, go ahead and give Harris a pass, or don't be in solidarity because we've got to we've got to pursue democracy, or whatever the language is. So I think that we've hit a little bit of a bump in the road, and we'll see how that, meets out. There's a sit-in happening. They've been there all night. There's going to be press conferences, marches, all kinds of things that are going to be happening today as a result of the DNC action yesterday.
I'm speaking with Nana Jamfi. She's the executive director of BAJI, the Black Alliance for a Just Immigration. She's also a radio personality here in Los Angeles on KPFK 90.7 FM. She's currently in Chicago at the Democratic National Committee Convention, giving us a report back on what has been happening. Nana, let me ask you this. One of the things that we've seen on social media is like this explosion of informative sources regarding Palestine, regarding Gaza, regarding anti-Zionism, etc. And that has added to our knowledge base, thankfully. And there's also been an increase in calls for support around the Congo, around Sudan, around Haiti, as in don't forget about the genocides, the war, the ravages, the famine that's happening in these countries also. Since you've been at the convention, have you heard any type of policy proposals floating around, not just in regards to Gaza and a ceasefire, but unilateral ceasefires, unilateral support for disarmament, anti-imperialism, etc.?
No, that was a short answer. No, that's not happening. I mean, that's not happening even with Gaza. Let's be very clear that even the discussion of ceasefire with Gaza, the Biden administration allegedly, right before they gave $30 billion for more bombs, had said they wanted a ceasefire. So the ceasefire thing they're trying to make do is actually, at least a couple of months old, based upon what Uncommitted had done with their movement. And so but there's no policy about that. There's no mention of Sudan.
Well,
no
policy proposals. People
no
have been saying, well, we can push by that. Well, 4 years ago, we can push Biden Harris. I'm not even sure if they're saying that. Well, we can push Harris Walz. Has nothing, nada, nope.
No, this is the reason that I'm here in Chicago. The reason I'm here in Chicago with BAJI and with our policy director, Ronald Claude, is because folks just gave it up without even getting some dinner. That's why I'm here, trying to understand with other people who are like-minded, okay, how do we move? Because there are no, the demands have been few. I don't think Black people have made any. And that are public, right? Like people really coming forward and saying, hey, these are policy proposals that we have. This is an agenda that we have. There are people who, at least not before the Love Fest, right? So folks are trying to do that now to some degree, and say, hey, we need something on foreign policy. We need something on reparations. But this is all after you've already placed the crown on the person's head. And, you and I have been in this space doing this work for a long time. I don't know how it works in politics, that you give it up and give people whatever they want and then turn around now and start trying to look to see what you can get them to do. That just doesn't work. It hasn't worked. There's nothing magical happening now where it's going to work. And when you look at the platform, which is available at this point, all of the things that we don't want are on there. when it comes to those issues that you've just raised, in the sense that imperialism is on the platform and white supremacy continues to be on the platform, and not addressing the issues that we have in terms of housing, in terms of healthcare. All of those things are still on the platform, and we haven't had. I don't see the policies that we need in order to be able to be freer with this person who supposedly is, according to Beyonce, freedom, right around the corner. If you look at that Democratic National Committee platform, I tell you, Thandisizwe, we won't be getting free this week. I can tell you that we won't be getting free this week, for
How about
sure.
in 2024? Will we be getting free in
No,
2024?
no, no, not in 2024 either. No, not in 2024
Mm.
either. And I think what is very clear from the convention is that the people are really going to have to do the work of continuing to build people power, right? We cannot fall into either the space in which we're completely reacting based upon the notion that the boogeyman is in the space and we're not doing any forward movement, but just reacting to what is hitting us. And we also can't be in a space in which we're like, oh, thank God, now they're going to go ahead and do stuff for us. And we know that already. Like, this is an old dance. We know this dance well. And, we've got to obviously change up and do something different if we actually want to be able to move some things. And so it's interesting because so many people I'm talking to who are gushing about the speeches at the convention and gushing about the energy of the convention, who are inside, right? People I know, who are my friends, who are my comrades, people I don't know. When I ask them, well, what exactly is the policy thing you're hearing that's making you understand that this is a new day? None of them can give me an answer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. So
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
the Debbie Downer right now because they're all excited. And then I'm like, great. And so what's changing? What's the policy thing? No one can give me
We
an
didn't.
answer.
It sounds like we did this in 2008, didn't we?
2008, and yeah. I mean, this is where we
Yeah.
were. And actually, 2016 wasn't too much better. I mean, people were having concerts before they had even started counting the votes, right? Like victory laps before the things had even happened. And so again, I think we do need to push. I think the fact that people have put the cart before the horse, or let me not, and when I say people, obviously, we know I'm not saying everyone, but the
Right.
major forces,
Mm-hmm.
including left forces,
Mm-hmm.
the rush to be part of the initial right number and all of that. And now people are trying to walk it back. So I know, and that can be disheartening, right, to folks. And that's part of my, again, coming here, trying to hearten people and get heartened and know that we can still push. And that's what the bottom line people need to understand is that we are being required more than ever to take our duty to win seriously. And people need to decide what that means for them as individual, as collective, as cadre. And we need to be doing that moving right now.
The KPFK audience is obviously familiar with who you are and what you do, Nana. But for the folks tuning in on YouTube, Black Liberation Media and Rootwork, can you give us a brief, real quick, what is it that BAJI, the Black Alliance for Just Immigration, does?
So, BAJI is a US based Black national organization that fights for the rights of Black migrants and African Americans. We do that through organizing, through legal and policy advocacy, legal direct representation, through civic engagement, through narrative building, research and reports, with the goal of improving the material conditions of our communities, meaning Black diasporic communities, through advancing racial justice and migrant rights. Been around since 2006, born out of Oakland, and can have locations both in Oakland, Los Angeles, Houston, Atlanta, Miami, DC, and New York. in Brooklyn, where we are headquartered with staff also in Minnesota and Kansas. So we're a national organization that works both on the area of racial justice with M4BL. We're part of M4BL, traditional civil rights orgs. We also connect with at some level, obviously immigration orgs, but then with the 20% of Black community in this country that is first and second generation Black migrant.
And that's, you said, for the rights of Black migrants and African Americans, not or African Americans.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, first of all, Baji was started with, by African Americans, also with other Black migrants who understood the need for that Black diasporic Pan-African unity in addressing issues that have to do with human rights, racial justice, etc. And we are very clear that no one is going to leapfrog over African Americans into some white land of milk and honey. And so we are part of the cadre that is definitely understanding that, the African Americans have to be free for everyone else to be free. And, we're cousins. We are cousins. And so it doesn't make any sense for us to not make sure that we're fighting on behalf of African Americans as well.
And for folks who want more information on the work that Baji is doing, how to keep up with y'all, how can they get that?
So you can go to the website, baji.org, baji.org. You can also find us on Twitter, Baji Tweet, find us on Instagram, InstaBaji, and on Facebook. We're there.
Thank you so much, Nana Jamfi, for being on Rootwork today. Stay safe. And I always want you to hurry back to LA because I got to represent for my city and my girls. So hurry back to LA, sis.
Absolutely. Will do. Thank you so very much for having me.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you. Again, you're listening to Rootwork here on KPFK 90.7 FM in Los Angeles, 98.7 FM Santa Barbara, a whole bunch of other places that's too numerous for me to name, and on the web at kpfk.org. Welcome to the YouTube audience who are checking us out on Rootwork and the Black Liberation Media platform. Before we get into our next segment, I want to remind you here at KPFK, the Pacifica Foundation, we are in our annual fund drive, and we're in our fund drive mode, our summer fund drive, and that means we come directly to you to ask for your support, not to get trinkets, not to get gifts and prizes and all that. We're appealing to you based upon the information that we bring, the resources that we bring. Show us how you appreciate this information. Show us, in addition to being an activist constituency, we know the work that you do with the information we bring you, but now it's time that we ask for some love. 818-985-5735, 818-985-KPFK, or go to the web, kpfk.org, and make a secure donation. My next guest, talking about statewide. Again, this is the Rootwork local edition. Now, statewide, if you or a loved one needs hospital care or chemotherapy, you would be surprised and or shocked, horrified to find out why that could be dangerous to your health. Next week, the California legislature is expected to vote on the Toxic-Free Medical Devices Act. That's AB 2300, which would ban the toxic chemical DEHP from intravenous bags and tubing that is either manufactured or sold or used in the state of California. And although the legislation would only apply to California, this is a national public health issue, as 90% of U.S. medical patients receive IV therapy or infusion. Every time I think about this story, I get horrified and my blood pressure rises. In anticipation of this important vote, the Breast Cancer Prevention Partners has released a new report, Toxic Free IV, Getting Harmful Chemicals Out of IV Bags and Tubing. So I want to go to my next guest, Suzanne Price, who's the CEO of Breast Cancer Prevention Partners, and let her explain to you why this is frightening, and something needs to be done about it. Now, once again, you know I be having issues. You know this. So hold on. KPFK listeners, because we have Gary Baca working for us, don't always have these issues. But me by myself, you are listening to Rootwork here on KPFK 90.7 FM in Los Angeles and a whole bunch of other places. And if you're joining us on YouTube, you are watching Rootwork. My name is Thandisizwe Chimurenga. Joining me now is Suzanne Price, the Chief Executive Officer of Breast Cancer Prevention Partners. Thank you so much, Suzanne, for being on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now, your organization has released a report because you're saying that the state of California is about to vote on whether or not to ban or not ban harmful chemicals out of intravenous bags and tubings used in hospitals.
That is correct. And when you put it that straightforwardly, it is shocking. It is shocking.
I was shocked when I saw it.
It's shocking this is allowed. There's a lot of things allowed in our environment, especially in the US, that are shocking. But when you combine hospitals and treatment with toxic chemicals, it's really upsetting. What our organization does and what we've been doing for 30 years is looking for the environmental links to breast cancer and trying to create policy and awareness to get those environmental causes away from people so that there will be less breast cancer in the future. So this group of chemicals called phthalates, we have been fighting against for many years. We successfully got phthalates banned from children's toys, plastic children's toys, nationally over 10 years ago. And we've successfully, a few years ago, gotten phthalates banned from personal care products and cosmetics in the state of California. And that's because this group of chemicals are endocrine disrupting. They're linked to breast cancer and a host of other diseases and problems such as infertility, obesity, and they have no place in products that children can suck on or that anybody is putting on their body. However, phthalates are in 70% of the IV tubing and medical bags in hospitals in California.
Now, is that, I was pronouncing it phthalates, it's phthalates?
That's right. People say it different ways. It's for those listening, it's PHTHALATES. Some people want to go look it up afterwards, and it's a hard word to spell, but this is a known endocrine disrupting group of chemicals. Right. The number one chemical that is in IV bags and tubing, the number one type of phthalate is called DEHP. And DEHP is what has been banned in children's toys and in cosmetics in California and is in most IV tubing and medical bags. And the reason it's in these products is that it makes PVC plastic soft and squishy. Right. So that's why they were in rubber duckies and other soft children's toys. And that's why they're in this IV tubing.
So DEHP, di2-ethylhexyl phthalate.
That's right. That's right.
Di2-ethylhexyl phthalate. Ooh, that's a mouthful. Yeah. A colorless, odorless chemical that makes polyvinyl chloride plastic, PVC plastics, more flexible. Now, you're saying that 60 to 70% of intravenous bags and tubings used in California, as well as nationwide, are made with this chemical. And that this chemical has known links to breast, liver, lung, and testicular cancers.
That is exactly correct, unfortunately.
And like I said, when I first heard about it, I was shocked. And then it was like, okay, intravenous bags and tubing. You mean the medical equipment that people who have cancer have to use in order to get their cancer treatment?
That's right. And unfortunately, it also is known to hamper the effects of chemotherapy. So people getting cancer treatment through these devices are actually less likely to recover, more likely to have a recurrence. And that is a known scientific effect. And you also have to remember these bags and tubing are being used with NICU babies, first brand new infants being exposed to this chemical right out of the womb, and it has lifelong developmental effects. The good news is that there is an alternative. 30 to 40% of the tubing and medical bags currently don't use this chemical, and that's because it's only PVC plastic that needs phthalates to make it soft. There are other alternatives to PVC that can be used for this equipment, and that is what a lot of, 30% of the market is using right now. Kaiser, throughout the state of California, got out of PVC and phthalate tubing and medical bags over 10 years ago. So there is an alternative that is as effective and also similar price point that is possible to switch to, and hospitals can switch right now.
Yes, Jan Robinson Flint, a former programmer here in Los Angeles at KPFK, a founder and executive director of Black Women for Wellness, has long advocated regarding the education of the public on the known dangers of, I keep wanting to call it phthalates, how they've been endocrine disruptors linked to reproductive disorders, etc. So I'm sure the KPFK audience knows that part about it. But this, the medical equipment that cancer patients need in order to treat their cancer might not only can give them cancer, but makes their cancer treatment ineffective. This is a horror movie.
It is. And yes, Black Women for Wellness, they've been great partners of ours, so I know they're well versed in this issue as well. But I think even a lot of us working on endocrine disruptors for years didn't realize the extent of the problem in hospitals directly, and it is very upsetting. And think about how horrible cancer treatment is. Even though it's gotten more effective over the years, even if someone survives it, the experience of going through chemo is very traumatic in itself. And to think that someone could be enduring that and then having it not have as effective an outcome as it possibly could because of what you're being treated with, it's really unfortunate. And we know that phthalates come off of the plastic. That's why they're banned in plastic toys, because kids who are sucking on them were ending up with the phthalates in their saliva, in their bloodstream, because it's not attached to the plastic permanently. So we know that the tubing is having the phthalates leach off into the liquid that is being delivered into your arm, into your veins. And that's a known effect. So the fact that this is even allowed is unbelievable. The fact that the manufacturers of the tubing with phthalates are pushing this law, not only to be reversed, but even if the law passes, they're pushing the date at which they have to comply out many years. So even if the law passes, which we hope it will next week, we are going to go around to hospital groups and try to get the hospitals to sign on to commit to get out of DEHP in their medical bags and tubing way before they actually need to, based on the law.
So now the California State Legislature is slated to vote next week on a bunch of things, including whether or not to loosen the regulations around DEHP.
Right now, there are no regulations around it as it relates to medical equipment specifically. So this would be an outright ban on the use of DEHP in medical bags and tubing. However, there will likely be somewhere between a 5 and 10-year time horizon added to the bill before these companies have to comply. That's why it's important for patients to advocate for themselves, for doctors and nurses to push their hospitals to actually stop purchasing these type of products even before that law changes.
Okay, so now on the screen, we've got a blog post from QIMA.com, which talks about the Prop 65 phthalates requirements. This is actually just under a month ago, July 29, 2024. California's Prop 65 requires businesses to provide their customers with warnings when their products contain chemicals known to cause health problems. We've all seen that label, that warning throughout California for several years now.
Yeah.
So this provides an overview of Prop 65 compliance. And again, this is specifically related to phthalates. And it says here that DEHP, di-2-ethyl hexyl phthalate, has already been included on this list?
Well, the Prop 65 list is really just about notifying consumers. And I think throughout California, we've all gotten used to walking to a building and there's a Prop 65 label, and we've started to just all ignore that because it could be any number of chemicals. It could be something used in the carpeting. It could be some cleaning product. It could be something in the building materials. It could be in the equipment you're using. I know even personally, being someone that is so aware of these chemicals, I can't avoid any place I go that has a Prop 65 warning on the wall because it would be everywhere. So they might be disclosing that in a way that people pay no attention to inside of hospitals. And I think people would still be shocked to know that this chemical is being delivered directly into their bloodstream.
Directly into their bloodstream. Once again, that is just shocking and horrific. I'm speaking with Suzanne Price, Chief Executive Officer of the Breast Cancer Prevention Partners, BCPP, and we're talking about an upcoming bill, hopefully, prayerfully, that will ban DEHP, a phthalate known to cause cancers and hinder cancer treatment because it is utilized in 60 to 70% of intravenous bags and tubing in hospitals. Did I get that right?
That's absolutely right. And there is so much in our environment that is related to risk of breast cancer and other diseases. And a lot of this can be prevented. So that is what we're working on at BCPP. And this legislation will be a giant step forward towards helping people be healthier from what they're exposed to in the hospital. And right now, this legislation is just about the state of California. But as we all know, we are a huge market here in California. Right. So what changes here, especially as it relates to products and manufactured products, does actually flow through the rest of the country. So if this bill passes in California and the governor signs it, which we hope will happen in the next couple of weeks, then the manufacturers will have to change their practices. And because California is such a huge buyer of medical equipment, we're hoping that that means that these manufacturers will change their practices for the rest of the country as well.
Let me ask you this. The report that you all have prepared, for those listeners, for those viewers who want to read and study this information on their own and make up their own mind, how can they get that information?
Absolutely. Well, our website is really easy to remember. It's bcpp.org, Breast Cancer Prevention Partners, bcpp.org. And the report is right there on our homepage right now. So they can go and check that out. It's a 10-page report all about phthalates and the specific problem and all the information that you need, as well as I hope I can say this even if you can't, but a link to take action and to reach out to your own state senator to push them to support this bill, and any other information you want about how to get involved is right there on our site.
All righty. And give us the website one more time.
bcpp.org.
Thank you so much, Suzanne Price of Breast Cancer Prevention Partners. Let me ask you real quick. Are you all on social media?
We are. You can follow us at BCP Partners on Instagram, BCP Partners, or look up Breast Cancer Prevention Partners on any other platform that you're currently following.
All righty. Thank you so much, Suzanne, for being on Rootwork today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Eight 818-985-5735, 818-985-KPFK or kpfk.org. We are in our fund drive mode. We need money. We need y'all to help us out. We need money. At any rate, our next, or should I say my next guest, Billion GodSUN from the AfricaTown Coalition here in Los Angeles. Leimert Park, aka AfricaTown, is known for its vibrant culture and strong sense of community. However, recent developments have caused distress among the community members. An institution known as Art and Practice, a nonprofit organization founded by renowned visual artist Mark Bradford and his partner Alan DeCastro, has acquired multiple properties in the historic Leimert Park Village. This has sparked allegations of displacing local businesses and a lack of community engagement. You're listening to Rootwork, listening and watching Rootwork, listening at KPFK 90.7 FM in Los Angeles and on YouTube at Rootwork. My name is Thandisizwe Chimurenga, and now I want to speak with a brother of mine who is one of the founders of the AfricaTown Coalition in Leimert Park, the area known as Leimert Park, where Kimati Park, named after Didan Kimati, is located. Brother Billion GodSUN. How are you doing today, Billion?
Hey, I'm doing great. How you doing, Sister Tanya?
I'm hanging in here, bro. Hanging in here. So for our audience who might not be familiar, let us know, what is the AfricaTown Coalition, please?
AfricaTown Coalition is the joining of two previous organizations, one being Blacks in 365, organization I founded with Marcus Macapone, Higgins, and others, with the Black Dot Empowerment Network, founded by Kevin Wharton Price. And in 2016, we decided, instead of responding to people who were killed by police after the fact, we wanted to proactively get out and prevent Black people from getting killed. So we immediately got out, formed different response teams with our brother Dino and others around the city. And at a certain point, we realized in Kimati Park here in AfricaTown, there were 50 people living inside of the park. So we began a mutual aid program and started advocating for them. And a lot of the meetings we were going to, there were groups known as Leimert Park this, Leimert Park that, basically naming themselves after the white man who designed the area we are in, however, had covenants to keep Black people out. So these same Black people who named themselves after Leimert were also talking about pushing out our unhoused brothers and sisters, shutting down the vending, shutting down the drumming and other cultural activities that were taking place. So we saw the need to go ahead and claim this as our AfricaTown and push back against the Negro gentrification they were attempting to carry out. So we just gradually got involved in other campaigns, supporting Black businesses, pushing out different corporate interests. Over the past couple of years, we've been fighting against the banks and a number of other ill entities in LA.
So fighting against gentrification has been part of your work from the beginning.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. So what is this newest campaign that the AfricaTown Coalition is involved in?
So recently we started a campaign against an organization known as Art and Practice. Art and Practice is a nonprofit organization that claims to want to bring more exposure to the arts in our communities. Their primary focus is dealing with foster youth. However, from their first arrival and purchase of properties, excuse me, let me pause there and go more into who Art and Practice is. It was founded by three individuals. One is Mark Bradford. He actually used to do hair here in the village, but he got to where some of his art pieces would sell for $10 million for one piece. And other pieces also sold for multiple millions. But he, in addition to his partner, Alan DeCastro, along with a third partner, Eileen Norton. Eileen Norton was previously married to the inventor of the Norton antivirus. So she also has access to a lot of wealth, but they began buying properties in the village in the early 2000s and immediately sorry.
Did you say he used to do hair in Leimert Park?
Yes, Mark Bradford. He used to, I was told, in a shop not too far from our elder brother Sika, and that kind of brings us to where we are today. Sika was one of the longest standing merchants.
We'll come back to Sika in a moment. Now, this is Mark Bradford, the MacArthur Foundation Genius Awardee, used to do hair in Leimert Park.
Correct.
And along with his, don't laugh, along with his partners, you're saying that they have been involved in some nefarious doings in Leimert Park. That's what you're saying.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry, I cut you off. Continue, brother.
So, yeah, they began buying properties and began displacing certain businesses, such as the World Stage, which is another long-standing institution in our community. There was a bar known as Cheerios, and over the years, they've obtained more and more property to where people are saying now they might even own up to 60% of our commercial district here in what we call AfricaTown. And on Juneteenth of this year, the community honored one of our longer standing merchants, our elder brother Sika, and they actually renamed the alley in front of his shop the Sika Dwinfo Corridor. Unfortunately, a couple of days after Juneteenth, when he was honored, Sika transitioned. And, you know, the community came out both on Juneteenth to honor him. Then they turned around, came right back out a few days later after he transitioned to pay their respect to the family. But then about 3 weeks after he transitioned, Art and Practice served Sika's family a 30-day notice to quit. So that, you know, immediately evoked a lot of tension in our community. You know, a lot of people know his daughter Milan just as well as they knew Sika, his wife. And, you know, without communicating to the family, without, you know, showing any type of sympathy for the fact they just lost a husband, a father, you know, we find it unacceptable. You know, just as they initially moved out Cheerios and World Stage, we know now by them pushing Sika out, they're showing they really don't have the best interests of our community, whatever their plans are. A number of the other businesses who are leasing inside of their properties are all on month-to-month leases. So that means they can do this to any, if not all of them at any given time. We know one of our newer businesses, the ice cream shop, All Chill ice cream shop, they were also told they will have to relocate at the end of the year. So there's been rumors as to what Art and Practice has planned. Some folks are saying they are looking to bring a campus in collaboration with USC over here. Other folks have suggested housing, but at this point, they don't really come to meetings, share their plans. They don't have too much posted on their website, you know, what their specific intentions are for the community. So it's caused us to respond with certain actions in an effort to kind of pull them to the table with both Milan, but also in the hopes that they will open themselves and their plans to the community.
I'm speaking with Brother Billion GodSUN, one of the founders and lead organizers with the AfricaTown Coalition, and we're talking about gentrification, the ongoing struggle regarding gentrification in Leimert Park, in AfricaTown. And you all have decided that Art in Practice is now, I believe it's Art and Parasite, and that
yes,
as opposed to giving others 30 days to leave, you and the community have given Art and Parasite 30 days to leave. Is that correct?
I think they got 24 days left now. So
okay, well, tell our audience about that.
Well, AfricaTown is a very thriving community. Some folks know it for the culture. Some folks know it for the politics. And a lot of folks know it's a community of resistance. From the 92 uprising to the 2013 response for Trayvon Martin to the 2020 uprisings, this is a community where a lot of organizing takes place from our elder Panthers and other folks that have been involved in the movement over the years. So, you know, there are a lot of creative minds collaborating right now in hopes of saving Sika's shop and getting respect for the family, but also for the fact that we know the potential that they could do with other businesses and other properties. And I was mentioning at the top of it, we initiated a campaign against the bank about 2 years ago because they have money involved in one of the properties that was purchased a couple of years ago also. So we're hoping to send a message to all the above.
Which bank?
Wells Fargo. And we also know Chase has been giving out a lot of grant money to different people in the community. And our thing is, great, take the crumbs that they give us, but they owe us reparations on a much larger scale for their exploitation of our people from chattel slavery forward.
So for audience members who want to follow the work of AfricaTown in general and this particular campaign against art and parasite, how can they keep up with y'all? How can they do that?
We are on Instagram. On Instagram, we're AfricaTown Coalition with an underscore at the end. On YouTube, we're AfricaTown Coalition. And I myself have pages on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook with Billion GodSUN, GodSUN.
Is there anything immediately coming up in terms of actions around art and parasite?
Yeah, we are actually planning a field trip, possibly today. But we will have ongoing actions depending on, whether or not art and practice responds and comes correct.
All right, again, that's Billion GodSUN, co-founder, organizer with the AfricaTown Coalition. And today we're talking about continued efforts at gentrifying the Leimert Park or AfricaTown area. This time, Art and Parasite, formerly known as Art and Practice, co-created by Mark Bradford, the MacArthur Genius Award winner. And the community is saying that Mark Bradford's hands are dirty in regards to gentrification in Leimert Park and the family of Sika, our master jeweler, who was celebrated on June 18th of this year, who passed away a few days after that. And his family was given a 30-day notice to quit the property that Sika shop. He's been there about 30, 40 years. Is that correct?
Yeah, we believe he opened shop in 1992.
Wow. Okay. And now it's time for him to go, according to Art and Parasite. Well, we appreciate your work, Brother Billion. Let us know how we can continue to support you.
If you're in LA, come out to AfricaTown. On the weekends, we have open market. Saturdays is a little freer. Come, do what you do. But on Sundays, we do have the African Village Vendors Association that'll look to take you in if you want to come and set up a pop-up. But throughout the week, people usually here, we do a lot inside the Lion Art Gallery. So you can usually find some of our folks there. But again, if you're outside of the area, you can reach us through social media. And, we're asking people, if you can, patronize and support Sika and his family, or if you know Mark Bradford and any of the people involved with art and practice, try to talk them into coming to the table and respecting this community, because I don't think this is going to play out the way they want.
Okay. Billion GodSUN, AfricaTown Coalition, thank you so much for being on Rootwork today.
Thank you for having us, as always, Tony. We appreciate you.
All right. That is all the time we have on KPFK. 818-985-5735. 818-985-KPFK or kpfk.org. This is Rootwork on KPFK in Los Angeles. That we are in Fund Drive. Please give us your support. Thanks so much to Gary Baca. Y'all take care in terms of the KPFK side. Now, for my remixers, for my Black Liberation Media people, appreciate you all so much. Please continue to support us because you know we've been having issues with YouTube. Continue to support independent media. Continue to support Black media. Continue to support independent Black media. Information on how you can do that is contained in the show description. So go check that information out. Again, my name is Thandisizwe Chimurenga. This is Rootwork, which I usually do whenever on Black Liberation Media. But today I've incorporated my local show, which is carried on the Pacifica Network in Los Angeles, KPFK. So appreciate you all, even the ones sending me clowning comments about ASMR. And appreciate you too, Zenzabel, with your text messages. At any rate, appreciate all of y'all. Thank you so much. I'll catch up with you later. Peace.